Hello and welcome back to Redirecting. I have a very, very interesting topic that was shared with me by a dear sister, in which I believe that this topic is and should be of the utmost importance to all of us. This particular topic is where Black leaders are actually accepting the blame for the failures of our children and our communities. I think this is a big, big leap forward because all day long, we can sit back and point fingers at white people and blame white supremacy for every ill that is in our lives. But at the end of the day, the ball is in our courts. And I say this because for every stumbling block that's cast before us, we should one-up them a leap over the hurdle. Meaning, okay, I see the stumbling block that you've cast before me and my people. We are going to put our heads together and figure out how to leap over, go around, dig under, or anything to overcome that stumbling block. At the end of the day, that is what we should be doing instead of saying, oh, look at the stumbling block. We cannot continue to focus on the stumbling block and expect change, okay? Also, one of the biggest things that we're doing, which I believe is a huge mistake, we have left it up to those who have made it very clear how they feel about us. We've left our education and the education of our children up to them. When you really sit back and analyze that whole concept, a country that has a history that's already been well established, a country that from the very beginning said, look, if you even pick up a book, that's going to be the end of your life. Now, all of a sudden, we believe that the descendants of these people who thought that way are all of a sudden going to be so concerned that our children get the best education. But yet, many of us, we act helpless. We talk about white supremacy all the time. Oh, white supremacy, this, that, and the other. But then we send our children out the front door every morning to go and be taught by white supremacy. Does that make any sense whatsoever? Okay, so I don't want the whole focus of this video to be about white supremacy. What I want to talk about goes far deeper than that. It's the actual leaping over the hurdle or digging under or going around the stumbling block that has been cast. So basically, it says Pinellas County school leaders still haven't cracked the code for how to effectively educate Black students, even in the face of a court order pushing them to do so. Now, the fact that a court order has to force us to educate our own children is very, very strange to me. It says less than a quarter last year were considered proficient readers, less than a quarter of our students. More than half were in remedial programs. Overall, Black kids in the county continue to lag far behind any other group by every academic measure. Now, the problem comes in is because, again, we have placed it on individual counties or cities or educational systems to educate our children. And we sit back, twiddle our thumbs, and do nothing. Oh, that's what I send them to school for. And we take no part in it. Even a parent who says, well, I don't feel like I'm qualified to do so. Remember Ben Carson's mom. She wasn't very well educated at all, but she said, go and read. Turn the TV off. Go and read a book. If your children are falling behind, they should not be playing video games. They should not be hanging in the streets. They should not have leisure time on the internet all day if they are falling behind. Make them read. So anyway, it says the school district has shown they just can't do it. And then the NAACP said at the chapter's meeting that they have done what they can do, but now it's time for the community to step in. So check this out, family. They've said that they have done all that they can do, but now it is time for the community to step in. Now, I like those words because far too many times parents will depend solely on the system. And even when they know their children are falling behind, they still say that it is up to the school. And what if you have teachers who don't care if your children are educated? Are you going to say, oh, well, they don't care, so my child is not going to learn? Is that the attitude you take? If we think ahead and see how our future generation that are coming after us are going to be responsible for things that take place in our communities, we would shake ourselves out of this drunken stupor that we're in as we watch our children go from bad to worse. Okay, continue with the article. It says, her group this week publicly declared local Black students' deficiencies in reading a major civil rights issue. But rather than point the finger at the school district, check this out, family, check this out. Scruggs said it's time for the Black community to accept part of the blame. I give her a round of applause for making that statement, because far too many times we like to blame everything on everybody else. And we don't want to accept any of the blame as a people. We have done this for a very long time. Now we understand that there is a system in place that is put there to cause you to fail. But instead of us always talking about the stumbling blocks and the ditches that have been dug, what we need to be doing is trying to figure out how we can overcome these obstacles, these stumbling blocks, these ditches. How do we leap over the ditch? Now it says educating Black children can't happen only during the school year or the school day. Kids need support from everyone around them, and the NAACP laying the groundwork is laying the groundwork to make that happen. Scruggs is proposing what she says is the first community-driven reading campaign set to launch about a year from now. She compared her plans to the 2006 movie Akeelah and the Bee, which tells the story of a young Black girl from South Los Angeles who dreams of winning the National Spelling Bee and the people who help her to get there. So a lot of people put their hands in there. Unfortunately, breaking away from the article for a minute, unfortunately, many of us, we want to give the responsibility to someone else. We want the school district to do it. We want local community groups to do it. But parents, many times parents, they don't want to help in the process. And I say this because everyone knows the story of parents who let their kids play all summer, let their children play even after school, coming in late and tired to do homework, letting their children watch TV all day, video games, internet. And then you say, well, how come you didn't do your homework? Well, you saw them on the internet. You saw them watching movies and television and playing games and letting them hang out with their friends. Many times people like to try to play dumb and put the blame on everyone else. Now, while we're doing this, that system that's been in place to ensure your failure, they're improving their strategies. And so that means you've got to get your head out of the sand. We collectively as a people, as communities around this country, have got to get our heads out of the sand and do as this sister said here, accept part of the blame. We can't keep looking at outsiders and not looking on the inside to see where we went wrong or where we as a people have failed our children and our communities. You see, it says, everybody in her community was giving her words, Scruggs told an audience Wednesday at Enoch Davis Center in St. Petersburg. Everybody was doing their part to make sure she got that spelling bee, because that's what African American people do. They support each other. That is what we're supposed to do, family. Okay. For too long, she said, Pinella's Black community has stood by waiting for the school district to lift up its children. And too few black leaders have held educators accountable when their efforts to boost black students haven't delivered. So I like where this article is going. We're basically saying, or she's basically saying that we sit back and we twiddle our thumbs and we expect everybody else to do something. We just sit back and we just wait for the results. We've got to jump in and get our hands dirty, too, with educating our children. Educating your children means so many different things. There are so many different ways to educate children. It's not just reading, writing, and arithmetic. There are so many ways, but we are dropping the ball on this. And I like what Malcolm X said. I'm no Muslim, but his statement is so very true when he says, only a fool would send their children to their enemies to be educated, to be taught. Now, I'm not calling anyone a fool. I'm just echoing his words. But when you really think about what he's saying, you sit back, or we sit back and we talk about white supremacy this, white supremacy that. Look at what they're doing. They don't like us. They can't stand us. But yet, again, as I stated earlier, we send our children and say, oh, I know you feel this way about me and my children, but can you educate them for me, please? Can you teach my children reading, writing, and arithmetic and life skills? Can you teach my children life skills? Do you think they're actually going to teach your children to the best of their ability to rise above them? Think about what we are doing. We are destroying our own selves, but yet we want to blame white people for every ill in our communities. Again, I am not excusing the guilty by any means. They play their part, but we play a part in it as well. Okay, back to the article. That's why, in her mind, the responsibility of teaching black students to read must be shared by parents, churches, barbers, school leagues, everyone who comes in contact with your children if the tide is ever going to change. I'm going to read that part again, family, because I don't think we get this. It says, that's why in her mind, the responsibility of teaching black students to read must be shared by parents, churches, barbers, sports leagues, everyone who comes in contact with our children. If we think the tide is ever going to change, everyone needs to take part in educating our children. We've really got to develop a model that touches children wherever they go, Shrug said. It's not only teaching our children to read, just like what I said, family, okay? It's about changing the culture so that we are actively engaging in making sure our children are well. So far, school officials who have their own ongoing initiative to close the achievement gap between black and white students by 2027 have been supportive of the NAACP's minorities. Now, let me break away from the article real quick right there. Now, the school said that they want to close the gap by 2027. So that's a ways off. That's 8 years down the road. And so, in my opinion, it should not take us 8 years to close the gap. We need to get off of our collective behinds and take more responsibility for the education of our children. Of course, with what the sister said here, everyone has to play a role. We've got to stop pushing it off on someone else to educate our communities and improve our lifestyles and our culture. This has got to start with us. We've got to care enough. The problem is not enough of us care. And then we make excuses. We wave the banner of excuses loud and high and frequently. We've got to stop with the excuses, because at the end of the day, as we age and our children age, what are they aging into? What are they going to do for our communities? Is it going to go from bad to worse because we refuse to look at the man and the woman in the mirror? Back to the article, it says Minority Achievement Officer Lewis Brinson, who helped develop the school's decade-long Bridging the Gap plan last year, has attended many of the group's monthly education committee meetings. We welcome the opportunity to work with the NAACP and all the community organizations that are willing to assist with accelerating the reading proficiency levels of Black students. He said in a statement this week, I, continue to encourage all community members and organizations to focus on initiatives to increase the reading levels of Black students in all grade levels. Now, breaking away from the article real quick, I think it's very important that we get this. Parents have got to take an active role or play an active role in this. Because, in my opinion, the biggest problem with any child are the parents. Now, we can sit back and talk about the excuses. I can't afford to do this. I can't afford to do that. Many times, some of the same people who say they can't afford to do this, that, or the other, they make sure that their children have expensive blue jeans and clothes and jackets and coats and all of this kind of stuff. But they say they can't afford to help educate their children. If they're going to have video games, why don't you get them Math Blaster? We use Math Blaster to accelerate our son, Elia. When he was having difficulty when he was age 11, we got him Math Blaster. And we made him get on that thing for 2 weeks straight until he got what he was having difficulty with. Listen, family, many times we look at the Black community and I see nothing but a ball of excuses. Yes, we talk about all of the things that white supremacy does, but do we stop there? Are we supposed to stop there and just say, okay, well, we have all these excuses, so now we don't have to try anymore because we got excuses? We can hang on to the excuses and sit on our rusty dusties and do nothing, but that will not improve the quality of life for our children. We've got to start taking an active role or it's going to continue to spiral downward. Back to the article. The idea was also supported by Rick Davis, president of the Concerned Organization for the Quality Education of Black Students, which has long fought for racial equality in Pinellas schools and spurred the district's Bridging the Gap plans, but he knows the group faces a long and challenging road. More people getting involved is not a bad thing, but at the end of the day, we have to know specifically what they are doing and is going to and that is going to change the outcome, he said. My question would be, how will this other program make a measurable difference? Davis pointed out that many in the Black community face extreme poverty, inadequate housing, and other struggles that get in the way of student development. The NAACP will have to be cognizant of that when it rolls out the reading campaign, he said. Now, not trying to be funny here, but again, we can just roll out as many excuses as we can. Because when I look at statements such as many face extreme poverty and inadequate housing, let me tell you, I remember coming up as a child. We faced all of that. We were in extreme poverty on the east side of Detroit. Inadequate housing, definitely. Okay? But there were organizations, local organizations in the community that there was the YMCA and there was another one that was at one of our schools. And they made sure that the kids had fun. We were swimming. They had pool tables. They had field trips they took us on. They had all kinds of things, fun activities. And then there were other church organizations as well who took us on activities and trips. They had potlucks where they would cook full course Thanksgiving style meals for the community every week, and it was all free, right? Now, I'm not saying that those things still exist, but the point I'm trying to make is they can exist, right? And the fact that they were able to provide us with fun, swimming and skating and pool and all these other things, our parents allowed us to go to those things. But the minute someone says, look, reading program, we have a reading program, all of a sudden there's crickets. Nobody shows up. No one is interested. Now, who does that fall on? Who does it sound like that falls on? That falls on the parents. If you care enough to get them out of the house, get them out of your hair so that they can go and have fun. Not saying that there's anything wrong with the fun, but you should also care enough about their reading and their ability to learn. A lot falls on parents. We can make excuses until we are blue in the face, but that will not change our situation. Okay, back to the article. It says, what kinds of resources do you bring to those children and families in question. He said, I don't know the answers. I just know there are a lot of families that are struggling where they are, and we have to find a way to meet them there. Now, let me go back to what I was saying as a child. When we were coming up, if communities can do all of these things, let me just talk about the churches, the black church, for instance. If we had a community mindset, black churches sometimes are packed out, and many times you have several of them in a very small region. You might have 100 black churches in a very small region. Okay. If these black churches really cared about souls and people and improvement of our people, and not just about tithes and offering and who has the most members, they would come together and say, look, let's pool our resources and feed the community, those who are struggling financially to feed their families. Let's take care of that low level need, or that issue of not having enough food, or in some cases, someone might have bills that need to be paid. They might need a little help here and there. If people came together with these solutions and said, let's create jobs, let's do something of that sort. Instead of making excuses about what the government isn't doing, what white supremacy is doing, instead of making excuses, what if we all sat down together and said, squash all of this madness and this bickering and fighting and this complaining about everything else, and let's come up with solutions. So then you can feed the people who are in poverty. Maybe you can get together and fix up some of the houses. Somebody got a roof leak. If you know how to fix it, fix it. Now, I'm talking about, look, groups of people. I'm not talking about putting it all on one person or one organization. I'm saying we need that community mindset. If we want to make changes in our community, we've got to stop talking about only the problems without presenting solutions. Because, again, we can talk about problems until we are blue in the face, but that will not fix a doggone thing. Back to the article. It says, Shrug said the NAACP's plans are still in the development stages, but she is confident in her vision. She has already met with prospective donors and a handful of community groups whose leaders have expressed interest in getting involved. The Office of U.S. Representative Charlie such and such confirmed he is backing the group too. One organization that has agreed to partner is Bees Learning Mobile Tutoring Service, based in St. Petersburg, but operating countrywide. Founder Leah Veal was formerly a teacher in Fairmont, once rated the second worst school in Florida based on test scores. It was one of 5 schools featured in 2015 Tampa Bay's investigation Failure Factories, which detailed how Pinellas school officials abandoned integration efforts on those predominantly black campuses and broke promises of extra resources as academic performance and student behavior declined. Now, let me say something about this part here. It said officials abandoned integration efforts on those predominantly black campuses. Now, let me say something about that here. They abandoned integration efforts for those of black school districts. Well, I had a little brief interruption there with the phone ringing, but that's okay. We were talking about integration. When we have the attitude that without integration our children can't do well, that sounds very, I don't know what to call that. It sounds very dependent. Whether we are integrated or not, our children should be able to do well. Can you imagine the people on the continent of Africa saying that without integration, we're not going to do well? We're basically saying that we need the presence of others in order to function properly. As a matter of fact, I don't think integration has helped us at all. And so to think that because the school abandoned integration efforts, that somehow affected the performance of our children. And then the behavior thing, that's a whole other thing. Our children and their performance should not be affected because of lack of integration. That speaks very low of ourselves. And that behavior aspect, that again goes back to the home. When you have children that are misbehaving and you look at the home environment, of course, we can sit back and we can rack up all of the excuses. We can put it on a flag and just wave it, wave it, wave it. Oh, I am exempt because I have 1,000 excuses. I have a lot of excuses. There's no man in the house. Oh, my children are this. Oh, my children don't have everything they need. They got their gym shoes though, but they don't have everything they need. But they do have their cable. They do have their internet. They do have their video games. And I know that that is not every household, but there are many households who have all of these things that I just named, but they have that banner of excuses, that flag that they just wave constantly and explain or try to justify bad behavior in their children. So again, this is not a tall order. We can sit back and we can continue with the excuses, or we can simply say, if we all do our parts, if we judge from within, if we hold our own people accountable for all of the mess that we see. First of all, we need to itemize every bit of mess that we deal with. The black on black crime. Now get this, I know there's white on white crime, but I'm not talking about them right now. Okay, if we're trying to fix us, we need to identify what is wrong with us. And as long as we think that the only thing that is wrong with us is white supremacy, then we can just hang it up and throw in the towel. We know what they have done, but what are we doing? We know that there have been stumbling blocks cast, but every time there's a stumbling block cast, we should one-up them with a leap over that hurdle. Over that stumbling block, going around it, digging under it, whatever we can do to improve our own situation, because they've made it clear they're not trying to improve our situation. So either we improve it ourselves or we shut the hell up. That's how we have to look at things, because looking outside of us to fix us is not going to help us. Back to the article. Ville, who uses a single RV turned classroom to teach more than 100 kids a week outside of local recreation centers and libraries, said she hopes a partnership with the NAACP will allow her to grow the nonprofit's efforts. Her goal now is the same as when she was a teacher, to help kids, particularly those who are Black and struggling, learn to read. It can be done. It says it can't be done by just the school system or just the community, she said, but it can be done together. Together, it can be done. Using testing data collected by the district, Shrugs estimates about 11,000 or nearly 20,000 Black students enrolled in Pinellas Public School need extra help with reading. Students enrolled in Pinellas Public School need extra help with reading. Her hope is to rally enough help that the NAACP can give each one a personalized education plan, detailing just how a community can envelop a child and push him or her towards success. As a community, we have to control what we can control, Shrug said. If we don't, we will keep on going in circles that we're going. We'll keep on going in the circles that we're going. It says, and we have already lost too many students, too many of our children. I completely agree with what they're trying to do in this area. This should be something that we are seeking to do nationwide, because, again, we are just wrapped in excuses. We wave that banner like it's a badge of honor for us to say, oh, don't look this way. I have excuses, so don't expect anything else out of me. I have this banner of excuses. No, we've got to stop waving that banner. We've got to do what we can. We have to do what we must to help our own. That is what we must do. I remember when we first moved down to this area almost 12 years ago, and we started a reading program at the library. And we had, I think, 1 week, some Black students showed up. After that, that was it. It was white students and our students that saw the program through to the end. Now, in no way am I trying to put my people down. I'm not trying to do that at all. But in my opinion, I think parents should be more active in making sure that their children are doing something extra. We were at the library every week. And this program, we did everything we could to make it fun for the children. But again, it was only the white students that showed up and stayed to the very end. And so what does that say about us as a people? We've got to care more about our children. We've got to one up every excuse with progress. And every stumbling block, we have to one up that with jumping over the hurdle. Because all of the excuses are getting us nowhere as our populations age. Our younger people who are growing up in dysfunction, they are going to be the future. Do you want a bunch of hood rats and thugs and baby mamas who don't want to do anything with their life? Do you want that to be our future? We can sit back and point fingers and complain about the baby mamas and the hood rats and the thugs and all of this. We can do all of that. Complain about all of that. But if we are not doing anything to cause some type of improvement or to encourage improvement or to join in the efforts of others, then we need to shut the hell up talking about all of the nonsense that goes on in the so-called Black community. If you are not going to make an effort to improve things, then shut the hell up. We need to do better by our own people. We need to step up to the plate, and we need to understand that we all together collectively can do these things. And it's a very shameful thing when one of us does say, okay, here, this is what I want to do. Let's have a reading program. And not just a reading program. We made it so fun to where there were prizes and games and all kinds of things that were educational. And to have no Black people show up was just really, really disappointing. Very disappointing. Now, we've got to do better, family. We can continue to talk about white supremacy, or we can get off our behinds and we can do something to help our own people. We can sit back and we can fight each other over nonsense foolishness, while our children continue to get killed in the streets, and we get on the streets and march and beg for freedom and happiness. We can continue to do those things. But until we try to fix our own selves, we need to just shut up. Okay, family, if I remember, I will drop the link to this article so that maybe you can be inspired in your area to do something. To do anything. We need to do something, family. We need to have more conversations about how to defeat white supremacy by looking at the man and the woman in the mirror, because we can always look at them. They have a track record that is very easy to follow. They've shown who they are time and time again. We know what they're all about. We know what they're capable of, right? But why harp on that if we are not going to do our parts? If we're not going to help our own children and all we want to talk about is how the school isn't helping them, then stop complaining and shut up. If we want to continue to focus on only what others aren't doing for us, we are going to be a lost people. Okay, family, with that, I think I'm going to close this video out, but I really hope to see more and more conversations about fixing our children and helping them. I see a lot of Black people, Black men and women, older people, should I say, trying to find themselves, trying to figure themselves out and leaving their children behind. We've got to make sure that we are pulling them along for the ride because they are the future. It is what it is, family. Let's take care of our posterity and let's improve our living conditions and our living situations. Let's improve the education of our children. Let's get them out of the televisions. Let's turn off the video games. Let's get them off of the internet and make them go sit their behinds down and read a book and write an essay and tell you what it is they just read. Let's stop playing games with their future and our own. That's what we're doing. We're playing games, and it's time out for playing games, family. Playtime is over. 2019 is upon us. Whether we make an exodus out of here or not, if we are still here or whether we're somewhere else, we have children that need us, and we have got to step up to the plate and handle our business. Okay, family, with that, I will say shalom. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.